I just hate praise. I don't hate praise. Praise is nice. Final answer. But I just don't think praise is helpful. And this is piggybacking right off of the last essay on how self-critique and a little bit of self-hatred can really guide your work. It's crucial to have that internal compass and chart your growth on your terms because you're on this path toward refining your taste and your execution. And yes, with that mindset, even you may one day execute one perfect unit of art. And then people will look at it and they'll say, that's nice. And if that's what you wanted, then that's nice. But it doesn't really mean anything. First of all, and this is a total side note, and you're going to be like, Noah, that's not, and I know, but good and bad are moral qualities. Like asking, is that film good? I don't know. Is it fascist propaganda? No, then it's probably good. Not to be pedantic. I know that's not what people mean. Is my work good? Is my work bad? On what grounds? It's just not a constructive framework for discussing the arts. And it's because something being good just means it answers yes to two questions. Is it well executed? And is it to my taste? And while it's obviously always nice and I appreciate hearing that someone thinks my art is good, there's this sort of humdrum quality to it. Like, not to sound like a total asshole, but I usually also think that it was well done. If I didn't think it was well done, I wouldn't have published it. And there are a million everyday reasons why it might be to your taste. Any given piece of art can be good just because it's in line with what's popular, just as easily as something can be good for having a cult status, and therefore it's more mysterious, it gets more good points. The new Superman is good. I guess, I didn't see it. And Eraserhead is good, which it is. And Glengarry Glen Ross is the best. And oftentimes the observer also has a relationship with me that colors their view of my work. So you end up with like, the Mona Lisa's good, and so is the pinch pot that I made for my mom when I was 7. And you might be saying, Noah, there's a huge difference between the most famous painting in the world and the pinch pot that you made for your mom when you were 7, to which I say, you can ask my mom. Now there is that quote from Whiplash, Terence Fletcher saying, there are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job. And Andrew replies saying, but is there a line where you might discourage the next Charlie Parker? Fletcher says, no, the next Charlie Parker would never be discouraged. And this isn't a mindset that's unique to Terence Fletcher at all. It's an incredibly common teaching style, especially when it comes to athleticism in the arts. But what he fails to illustrate is that the next Charlie Parker would also not be deterred by hearing good job. If you are truly on the path to being a great artist, and you are endlessly refining your taste and your artistic execution, you will not be fazed by good job. It's just information. It's just information about that person. They're saying, you have executed your work to my taste. Good to know. And it is good to know, especially if you're in the realm of products and clients. And it's certainly nice to hear, but this good versus bad language, it really does a disservice to both critics and artists. The critic, on a scale from bad to good, is just imposing a limitation on the depth of their own critique, when there may be many virtues to speak to or more precise criticisms to levy, both of which would improve the next final product. The artist, similarly and oppositely, can't identify those actual growth areas, and that reduced language, the good versus bad, hinders the artist's ability to find solace in their true specific strengths. It's so much harder to identify what your true artistic fingerprint is if the only feedback you're ever receiving is, that's bad. Where's the framework for growth? The letterboxedification of arts criticism, where worth is measured in fractions of stars that basically boil down to how palatable a thing is just such a waste of fucking time. And it's not interesting. It's not interesting to talk about. There's so much more to discuss than this binary. Like, okay, I'll be the first to say that my art is bad, but my prose is rock solid. I think my lyricism is often touching, and I regularly push myself compositionally, particularly in music, but in all of my mediums. I pay attention to detail, but my technique can be inconsistent, and I tend to rush through my prep. I'm an effective editor, but I certainly haven't reached peak technical production yet, especially with music. So my art is bad. And also it's good. You see what I mean? And here's another thing when it comes to collaboration. It is a lot easier to genuinely compliment the work of others when you shift away from good and bad. If you are an independent artist in a grassroots scene, you are going to engage with a lot of bad art, by which I mean not well executed and not to your taste. And you're going to engage with a lot of bad art from peers with whom you are collaborating, and in those rooms you're going to hear a lot of, yeah, it's good. And it's such bullshit. But also, there's always something there. And it will make you a better artist and a better collaborator if you can name it. To be able to say to someone, look, I kind of had a hard time understanding the actual relationship between the brother and the sister, but the dialogue itself felt really grounded and natural. Just don't be a cog in the machine of these rooms full of artists telling each other good job. But more importantly, when someone tells you good job, be gracious, thank them, and don't let it slow you down. And the ones who are closest to you, they'll probably even say, you push yourself too hard. It's not that deep. Isn't this good enough? To which I'm always thinking, I push myself as hard as I need to. Everything is that deep. And don't worry, I'll know when it's good enough. When I finish any piece, I do everything I can to push away the simple, good, and bad. And I'm not perfect. These essays are just as much for me as they are for you. But I instead try to ask myself questions about the work. I try and zoom out and away from the tiny little scrutables, the scroots. I squint at it a little, and I give myself a simple yes or no. Is this what I had envisioned? And if it's not what I envisioned, then I didn't actually finish, and I have to dive back in. I finish again, and now I ask myself, am I glad this exists? Because that's all that really matters. Fuck what's good and bad. If you can create something, and you're able to look at it and say, this should exist, well done.